Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. We are here today at the start of the video with the fox-based berry farm that we built in the last episode. Some people have let me know there are actually some even better ways of setting this farm up. So for example, if you wanted to put a roof over the top of this thing, you could put another passive mob in there, like a pig or something like that, in the center of the farm without a berry bush being there, and the pig wouldn't be able to pathfind around because they will not pathfind into berry bushes, but that will apparently keep the foxes from sleeping. I'm not entirely sure how that works or why, but I guess it does. So they will not take a nap even if they have a roof over their head. However, I'm still planning on keeping this thing as it is and just building a skylight into the roof of this establishment so that we have direct access to the sky at all times and the foxes won't take naps anyway. Some people also said that it's possible to set this farm up so there's a layer of carpet above the berry bushes and foxes will still harvest the berries through that. The berries will just stay on the floor of the farm instead of being picked up by the foxes themselves. Of course, that requires the foxes to have nothing in their mouths in the first place because they'll need to have something they can use to pick up the berries anyway, but I think all in all, this farm is producing a decent amount of berries without me really having to worry too much about that. And I haven't left it running in the background all that often, so I don't need to worry too much about the berry output for it. Just kind of fun to have a farm like this set up, and to be honest, I enjoy the noises the foxes make a little bit too much. They are kind of one of the most adorable mobs in Minecraft right now. But today I want to do a couple of different projects. I want to start on something a little bit smaller and then work our way up towards something a little bigger. I want to create a banner, a Minecraft banner that's going to represent the ski resort project here so that I can add those banners to the nether portal that I have in the nether. In the days to come, especially when the nether update actually arrives, I'm going to need to do a lot of tracking down of nether portals and making sure I know exactly what leads where and the coordinates of each portal. So I think marking some of these portals in the nether is going to be a wise decision. And so since this is my current major project and is all looking pretty great right now, I figure we might as well try and lock in a banner design now. I'm trying to look through some of my boxes here to see if I have anything that is going to be useful for banner creation. I think we'll probably have a loom in the village box here, but I will need a little bit of wool and stuff as well. Let's quickly hop over to the lodge here to see if we have any supplies for banner making in here, and if not, I think we might take a quick trip back to Founder's Forge, where we're going to be spending a decent amount of today's episode anyway. One thing I often forget is that across this forest from my ski resort project, I actually have the mob farm that we set up a little while ago. This kind of fairly efficient multi-platform mob spawner is out here, and I think over here I should have a little bit of string in this chest that I can use to make a little bit of extra wool. Wow, okay, we don't really have that much string. I guess this thing didn't produce all that many spiders, or if it did, I claimed the string already. Oh well, I'll at least use this opportunity to top up on gunpowder, and maybe if I stick around over here, I can gather a little bit of extra string for wool making as well. Yep, there we go, the mobs are falling already. I should really put sides on this thing one day so that we don't end up with a bunch of mobs falling out of the sides. Oh, and here's a quick fix that we can apply to this mob farm, actually. Some folks pointed out that it's going to be better if the platforms kind of alternate when they spit out the water buckets. So I'm actually going to place one of the water buckets now and fill that with an empty one, and then alternate that between platforms. So we end up with half of the platforms switching on, half of the platforms switching off, and this thing will produce mobs basically at more or less twice the rate, because one platform will always be switched on, the other will always be switched off. So there we go. Now we've got 3 platforms which are currently dispensing water and 3 platforms which are not, meaning the ones that aren't dispensing water will be able to produce mobs, and then they will alternate, meaning that we get the mobs dropping twice as frequently. And we might not get as many spawning at once, but there is going to be a limit to the amount that these mobs can spawn anyway in a smallish amount of time here. So once the farms switch, there we go, those creepers and stuff are getting pushed off the platforms. That one there is still pathfinding a little bit, but nope, he is making his way down there. And the rest of the platforms should spawn mobs in the meantime, alternating between the two, and meaning we get a few more frequent mob drops. And after waiting a few more cycles, we should have a little bit more string. There we go, got enough for 6 wool, which should be all we need to make a banner. Now I just need to go and find some dyes. And in even better news, it turns out I had like 20 looms in here from when we built these things. So I should just be able to set up a loom over at the lodge now. Let me see if I can find some lapis or something like that to make some blue dye. We'll mostly be needing blue and white dye for this because, of course, the main thing we've got is the blue sky and the white of the snow. A little bit of light grey as well, I think, and we should be able to make a banner design that quite neatly represents this area. And the last thing I'm trying to do is fly around a little bit to find a desert so I can pick up some cactus. And is it a weird coincidence to me that the northern part of this world is all ice biomes and the southern part seems to be the only place I have deserts? I think so. I think if I traveled far enough north, I would probably find another desert again, but still, it is a little bit strange to me, living in the northern hemisphere anyway, that everything north of me is snow and everything south of me is desert. But flying around like this has definitely got me in the mood for the project I want to do for the rest of this episode, which I think is going to be a more comprehensive map of my entire world. I've been wanting to do something like this for a little while, and obviously the entire world is a bit of a stretch. I'm not going to be able to go out to some previously unexplored biomes. I'm not going to be able to travel 30 million blocks or anything. What I want to do is map all of the places in the world that I've been already and built something in particular. But while we're here, can we just appreciate how awesome this ice spikes biome looks? That is genuinely really quite cool. Anyway, moving on. I think in the end I am just going to head back to Founder's Forge because I know I have all of the dyes and stuff that I need over there. But man, it is difficult to find cactus if you want it. There we go, home sweet home. It has been a little while since I've been back here, actually, and I did take a quick trip to the zombie pigman spawner so that I could get myself a little bit of extra XP, repair that elytra desperately needed, especially considering we're going to be flying around a lot today, mapping sections of our world. But before we do that, of course, I'm going to pop down a loom. We're going to make a banner out of the stuff I've got in my inventory. Going to start with a light blue banner here, and hopefully we should have enough dyes to get the rest of the layers done. It's mainly going to be blue, white, and green. Next question is, does this actually have a pattern in here for white bricks? Oh yes, it does. Okay, cool. So we don't need to expend a brick layer to do that. That's very good. Now let's take the white field masoned, reapply a blue gradient over the top of that, starting from the top down. So it's going to look like snow is falling on the banner like that. Next layer we want to add is another white layer. This is going to be one of the slope sections like so. And I think we are also going to add another white layer, which is the straight line diagonally like so. Yep, like that, just to bulk up that layer a little bit more. Then we're going to add a grey layer. I'll need a little bit of light grey, which I probably have up here in flower form, but I do have some dye in there as well, so we can add that. The banner is coming together nicely. Let's add the light grey to that in the form of a triangle, a chevron at the bottom there, looking a little bit like a ski slope already. And then the last thing I want to do is add a kind of wobbly line, whatever this is called, indented, there we go, at the bottom to represent the trees growing up around the base of the mountain. And this right here is going to be the banner of the Snag Ski Resort. It's basically kind of intended to look like it's snowing on a mountainside. There's a little bit of stone there. We have some trees at the bottom, but the majority of it is covered in snow, much like we want the majority of the mountains to be once we're done with this project. Let's make a couple more copies of this and we can add it to the nether portal in the nether. Of course, the other great thing about being back here is I have access to my sheep farm, which has produced wool of all colors for quite some time. In fact, I think this entire thing has now run out of shears. The durability just decreased a little too much. But no, we can make ourselves a few extra copies of the banner nice and easily. Thank you, sheep. And I will probably be back here to add some more shears to that in a second so we can end up producing some more wool. But to copy the banner, all we should need to do is pop another set of banners in there with it. It needs to be the same base color, but then the pattern just copies straight over, and there we go. We have 7 of these banners representing the ski resort. I like that design. I think that design turned out really well, and in fact, if we wanted to, we could probably reverse the design and have the lines here, the kind of large triangular segments, go the other way, so that if you put them together, it kind of formed like a, is it a diptych? Is that what it's called, when it's like 2 paintings side by side that form a complete picture? We could kind of do something like that if we want to. I'm not going to worry about it today, but try stuff like that out with banners when you get the opportunity. Build little kind of pictures with them, and I feel like it opens up even more possibilities for banner crafting. But here we go, back through the nether, and I can proudly display the banner on either side of the portal, letting me know that this portal here is marked. And if we wanted to map the nether, which would be kind of an exercise in futility, considering that the nether roof makes it impossible to map the nether, we could potentially mark these banners on those maps. And I have a feeling that it might even be possible to do that. If we rename the banners, that is, we can figure out more or less where stuff is in the nether based on banner markings rather than it being like something we have to navigate via a top-down view of the world. But we're going to go back into the world now, and we're going to do a little bit of map making in the overworld. While we're at it, how about we hang up a couple of banners in the house, though? I like that. I like having those around. That's pretty cool. Right, for the banners, we should need a fair amount of paper, which I think I will probably have in my fireworks box. I'll definitely need to replenish my fireworks from that. Anyway, yep, got plenty of that. Fantastic. Now, let's make ourselves a cartography table, and let's get some maps made. I have come back to Founder's Forge once again, because it occurs to me that it's going to be much cheaper just to buy the empty maps from cartographers instead of crafting them myself out of iron and redstone, or at least it's going to be a less time-consuming process, because we now have 36 empty maps in the time it would take me to probably craft about 3, so that's great stuff. Now we need to pop down a cartography table, which I think I have one in here because it's a dark oak kind of color, and I wonder if we can adjust the scale of it already. I guess we can't, right? So we'll probably need to head over to our main area over here. I want to scale these maps out as big as possible. We're going to end up with a 1:16 scale for this map, meaning that it's going to be ultimately pretty small. It's going to cover 128 by 128 chunks. We're not going to get anywhere near the level of detail that we have on this, but I want to start out with that. We'll start big and then we'll zoom in a little bit smaller, because of course it's going to take a little bit more effort to map the world when you have something a little bit more detailed, because we're going to need a lot more maps in order to do that. But I'm going to throw this here map into the cartography table with a little bit of paper. We're going to do that once, twice, and then 3 times, and then hopefully that should now be on a very, very small scale. Yes, there we go, but it looks like we should now be able to map the world quite successfully like this. And oh boy, yeah, no, that is small. That is small as all heck. And of course, the corner of the map comes out here to the swamp biome, where we have previously determined roughly around there, where those shulkers are sitting in boats, is the central point of the world, the 0, point. And it is around that axis that all of these maps will rotate. So anything southeast of that point is going to be covered on maps facing out in this direction, which I guess I can now fly around and complete this one a little bit more. Anything northwest of it, by contrast, is going to be diagonally in the opposite direction that way. And using that knowledge, we should hopefully be able to map out everywhere that we have been in this world already. And on the way, we'll probably find a couple of locations that we haven't been yet, but are still to be explored. You know what, I just took a look at this map and it still says it's scaling at 1:8 instead of 1:16, and frankly I'm not entirely certain I want to do a 1:16 map considering how small this is, but you know what, we're going to give it a go anyway. I figure we might as well go the whole hog if we want to. Now let's take a look at how this map measures up, and oh boy, oh boy, this looks like it is going to be an incredibly small map. But considering that the furthest away I have traveled in this world is about 6,000 or 7,000 blocks, I think, to the village that was on the border of a jungle and a swamp biome, it's only going to take a few maps to create a picture of the world that is this large. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of flying around, but I'd say we only need about 3 or 4 maps in order to get out that far. Although, I think in making these maps this big, I might even end up mapping sections that I haven't been to before, just so we can fill out the entire map. And to be honest, if you're looking for an efficient way to do this, it's really going to be a matter of doing it systematically, of just kind of 3D printing the map almost as you go, printing it from the top down and making sure all of these corners get filled out before you turn around and go back in the opposite direction. That is the only way we're going to be able to make sure this map is complete. So it's going to take me a fair amount of time to do this today, and I think it might even take me into tomorrow as well. So let's do a little bit of mapping and let's see how we get on. Well, I have to say, that was a real eye-opener. I originally stopped the recording, which is why there's probably like a little bit of a hitch in the time-lapse there. I just decided to start recording again as soon as I realized that we were going to be flying around for about 20 minutes. I thought that would make a really cool time-lapse, and it has taken me roughly 20 minutes to clear out the whole space of this entire map. That is, once again, 128 by 128 chunks. That's 2,048 blocks square at that 1/16 scale. And oh boy, let me tell you, let me actually show you after we get a little bit of sleep. I'm going to put this thing up in an item frame so you can see in a little bit more detail exactly where some stuff is that we have built. And this is, like I said, a real eye-opener. After I check that there aren't any creepers around, let me put this thing up on the wall and we can do kind of like a light box thing, I guess. It's actually a really good idea to put maps on the front of lighting blocks when you're mounting them in an item frame, because otherwise the map gets a lot of weird lighting kind of issues with it. It doesn't quite show in full illumination unless the entire wall behind it is made of light sources, or near enough anyway. I'm so paranoid about creepers right now. But yeah, I think this is really, really interesting. And if you ever wanted all of the stuff you have built in your Minecraft world to instantly feel super small, I really recommend giving this a try. That right there is Founder's Forge in its entirety. That black streak there is the ravine, that bit there is the castle, and then all of this other stuff is where the houses are. I guess there's a little bit off to one side of the map there that is still missing, but honestly, that is really quite strange to see all of the stuff that I've built up in this area, this huge amount of builds, or what I've considered to be a huge amount of builds for the longest time. That little blue blob right there is the Dark Prismarine of the Villager Retirement Home, which feels like a massive build when I look at it, and then it turns out that it's really not all that big at all. Likewise, this section here, I think that section of 6 pixels there is our entire Villager Trading Hall. It's just nuts seeing this stuff in the scale, in context of the entire Minecraft world. And this thing gets pretty far down. You see, that square section there is actually the flower farm that we built out in this whole flower forest biome, is just represented by that little kind of rectangle of 8 pixels down there. It's massive, this world, and it feels like we have barely scratched the surface. We have barely touched one tiny corner of a 60 million block wide world. It feels just tiny by comparison, which is kind of cool. But then again, you look around and you realize that we have built so much stuff in this series so far, and there is still so much of the world that we could use, including some really odd terrain features. Like, there are a couple of things I actually paused to take a look at as I flew around, like this one cave that was a perfect like square or rectangle kind of carved into a hillside. Naturally, I haven't done that, and for some reason it was filled with chickens, but that was just a bizarre section of the world that I had never really touched before. And as far as I can tell, anyway, that wasn't caused by any kind of terrain generation glitch. That is just Minecraft being Minecraft and letting a cave come out at the edge of that hill or something. But wow, that was kind of crazy, and I'm looking forward to doing a few more of these because, of course, this is by no means the only area we have built in. We have a couple more areas to explore. I at least want to get as far south as the Jungle Village, as far east as the Drown Farm, and as far north as the Snag Ski Resort. So I'm going to spend a bunch more time, probably off camera, because we've had one time lapse and I think one is enough, mapping out the rest of my world. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We should have a slightly larger map to look at when we get back, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Hey folks, welcome back. So I had to look for a decent sized place to put up a map of this entire world, and it turned out that a wall in the castle was a good place to start. Now this is actually a much larger map than it appears, or on a much larger scale than it appears, and you can probably see in the center there, yes, that is the start of the map that we did the other day. I mean, it's now like the 3rd day of doing this project, basically. That right there is Founder's Forge. Where the green dot is basically where we are in the castle, and that marker is bigger than basically any landmark on this entire map. That right there is the Mushroom Island where I have built the Suspicious Stew Factory. A pretty large build, and yet it's only represented by about 3 or 4 pixels there. That grey blob next to it there is the Guardian Farm, which is a pretty large, I think it's like a 58 by 58 square. There is, up there in the top left corner, in the northwest of the world, those 3 grey blobs right there are the mountains I have been building over at the ski resorts. So that will probably give you a better idea of really how small a scale we are working with here. Interestingly enough, that little black line over there is the Minecraft Survival Guide logo that we built in a map art area quite a while ago now. It's probably 100 or, close to 200 episodes, I think. So we obviously have a lot of stuff built around this world and no idea of where most of it is on the map. Like down here in one of these desert areas is our fossil dig site. We have a bunch of stuff like the flower farm somewhere over here in the flower forest biomes. All the way down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I think around there, is the jungle swamp village that I built, and you cannot see that in the map at all. The other stuff, like the witch farm even, the witch farm that I built kind of out here, I believe is where it is. No idea that that even exists out there if you look at it on this map. So what I really want to do is take all of these maps down and take some banners with me to each of these locations, adding the banners to the maps as I go. So what I'm going to do is head over to my sheep farm and pick up a ton of different colored wool, and then I'll make a bunch of banners of each type and bring anvils with me and rename them as I go, traveling to each of the landmarks of this world using my nether portal network. And at the end of that, we should hopefully be able to add as much as we can to the map. Now, of course, some stuff that's gathered together in the same area, like the whole town of Founder's Forge here, there's going to be a lot of landmarks that we have to leave off of the map simply because they're too close together. With the scale of that map, I think the only thing we can do is plant a flag somewhere in the middle and say this is Founder's Forge, rather than saying this is, my storage area and my villager trading hall and the iron farm, and all of that stuff is going to have to come under the banner of Founder's Forge simply because there's not enough room on the map to display it all, and it looked like a giant jumble of text all at once. But things like the Guardian Farm, the Suspicious Stew Factory, all of that stuff is going to be far enough apart that we should hopefully be able to make it all separate. So I think what we're going to do is take one of these empty shulker boxes, make a bunch of banners, and just stuff them in here, along with some of the anvils that I've got in here. I actually made a bunch of anvils a while ago just as something to use up all of the iron from the iron farm. I think I even have a bunch of colored wool in here, so I can make a bunch of banners with that. I'll take 5 or 6 of each type of banner. Seems like a sensible thing to do, with about half a stack of wool each time. And we can end up using whatever color of banner we think best suits the landmark at the time. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch of these banners, pop them all in a box, and let's go ahead and mark some of this stuff out. And to refresh your memories on exactly how this is done, because of course it has been a while, we're going to take this map down off the wall. That's the one that has the majority of Founder's Forge on it. And in fact, I'll probably just end up putting the banner in here. We might as well. So we'll take one red banner, we'll take the anvil here, and we'll rename the banner in the anvil. We'll put that as Founder's Forge, like so. And then we'll pop this banner down basically anywhere. It has to be placed in the world in order for us to do this. And then we take the map and we right-click on the banner with the map. Then when we put it back in the frame, you'll see in tiny text up there, it actually says Founder's Forge and has a red banner marker on there. Slightly obscured by the map marker in here, but at least it shows where we are. In fact, I'm not sure. Can I remove the map marker in the cartography table now? Is that something I can do? Doesn't look like it. No, I think that might be more of a function on Bedrock Edition. You can make maps without markers, but yeah, there you go. You can see Founder's Forge in there. In fact, if I take this banner away now, it will actually still stay on the map. You'll notice there that the Founder's Forge banner still appears in the center of the map there. Then if I take the map down off of the wall, it will disappear again. So if I end up misplacing any of these, I don't have to do too much to overwrite them. I can just right-click on the banner one more time, put it back up there, and then take the banner away. As long as I don't take this map down and update anything right now, then everything is going to remain as it was. So I think what I'm going to do is spend a bit more time off camera, marking out all of the locations in this world, and this will actually be really useful when we come back for episode 300 and do a full world tour. Well, folks, here we are, and I have to say it is really quite strange seeing how clustered together some of this stuff is and how much space lies between them. For example, here we have the central area of Founder's Forge. We have Old Town, the Trading Hall, and the Villager Retirement Home. That was basically all of the stuff I could squeeze in without everything overlapping. Obviously, we have so much stuff built up around here, like the honey farm is out there, for example, as that single yellow pixel there, and there's a bunch of other stuff nearby. The witch farm is out here, so it's a little bit further away, and we could fit that in, but really there's a lot more here than meets the eye and that I could fit onto this map in the first place. But looking around, we have our skeleton and spider spawner that we built early in the series. The flower farm is down there in the flower forest biome. That's actually the location of the stronghold, although I haven't been there for a little while, at least not on the surface, so it was kind of a surprise to find out where that was. Further down over here, we have the desert village with the pillager tower nearby where we did our first raids, and of course we also have our Ravager-powered crop farm just around there. This desert temple down here I marked off simply because that is where my nether portal is that I arrive at the rest of this area in, and down here is the fossil dig site where we found our first fossil in this world and dug it up so that it became more of an archaeological dig. Down here on the right-hand corner, of course, we have the Swungle village, as I've been thinking of it, the jungle swamp village, and you'll also notice that the more words you type in this, the more characters the label for the banner has, the smaller it appears on the map. So I've been trying to abbreviate these where I can. So yes, Swungle Village ends up down there. Let's see what else we have. We have the micro build town next to a village which also has the ink farm next to it. Out there on the eastern edge is the drowned farm, and somewhere up here is that woodland mansion that we went to a long time ago. But since I haven't really built anything there, I didn't really think that was worth marking off on the map. Here is some other landmarks that are worth noting though. The Guardian Farm is right there. The Turtle Sanctuary that we built at Turtle Island is up there. And over here is the Suspicious Stew Factory, and next to that, the Creeper Farm, which we don't have a note for on the map here because once again that would overlap a lot with this stuff. Moving on up here, this is the area we've been working on for the last little while. The ski resort, at least the mountains we've been building are up there. Snag Town is right there. The ice farm is just below that, just to the south of that. And then south, further still, across a forest, which just doesn't show up on here because all the trees are covered in snow, there is our hostile mob farm with the multiple platforms that we saw at the very start of this episode. The only other landmark of note on here is our mob head farm, where we've been farming charged creepers and stuff like that, and just to the southeast of that is a fantastic savanna plateau biome, or a savanna, shattered savanna, I think it's called now. It used to be savanna M biome, but is now shattered savanna, and I really want to go back there at some point because the scenery there is just amazing. I have to say, I've been going around filling in areas of this world just to try and connect the map up a little bit, make it feel a bit more complete, make it feel a bit more squared off at the edges, and I will eventually fill in all of these ones around the outside as well to give us a more complete picture of what we've got here, especially when we need to connect the Swungle village to the rest of the world. But it is really evident when you've done a project like this how much of the world we just leave empty and how little of it we use. And when you consider that the borderline of the top of that map actually finishes somewhere around 6,000 blocks north, and I think this one only goes down to about 8,000 blocks south is where the jungle village is down there. This is really not a large area of the world when you consider that there are 30 million blocks in every direction from our 0 point around here. That is honestly barely the tip of the iceberg. In fact, it's like an ant on the tip of an iceberg is really the area that we've covered in this world so far. And I think with that little bit of perspective, we are going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you've enjoyed watching me put this map together. A little bit of a break from the mountains today. We will be back at them on streams, of course, so I hope you guys enjoy those. Stop by on Twitch every now and then if you want to see me building a mountain block by block. Until then, take care. I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.